Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. Or maybe it's not. You see, for a lot of us, Christmas isn't really so merry. Some of us find it a nuisance. Some of us wonder why we even celebrate it. Today, I hope to dive a little bit into the question of, does Christmas even matter? Let's dive in. All right, welcome. It is Friday, December 19th, and I know what you're thinking. Where were you on Wednesday? Well, had a bit of an interesting week, had some car trouble, and kind of got thrown into a pickle, a Christmas pickle, and we're looking for a new vehicle. Also, I wasn't feeling too great on Wednesday, so I decided I need to push it back a little bit, which is unfortunate because the week before that, I had also done it on a different day than Wednesday. I promise we will eventually get back to regular Wednesdays, but not next week because it's Christmas, so we won't be. I won't be here next week. I will be with my family. But Merry Christmas. It is Friday, December 19th. I am excited to be here. I am excited to be doing another live stream. Perhaps the last live stream of 2025. I don't know. We'll find out. We might have another one before the new year kicks in, but this is, I think, episode 24. So today, before I dive in, I just want to say a few quick things. First thing I want to say is, if you have watched the show for any time, or maybe if you're watching the show for the first time, and you have a question, any question, feel free to scan that QR code up right there, or click the link that's going to be down in the description, and it'll give you an option to ask your own question, and it'll also give you an option to say whether or not you would like to be on the show with me, which would be such a joy to have you on the show, wrestle with questions together. It's called Adamanswers, but it's not called Adamanswers because I know everything or because I have all of the answers. I do not. There is an infinitude of things that I do not know, but I love wrestling with questions. I love difficult questions. I love thinking through them. I love pondering them. And I love when a question has the potential to change the way that you see the world. So that's what I love doing. And if you want to be a part of that, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps the channel, really helps the show get seen to many people. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. Today, we're gonna dive into a Christmas episode. If you haven't kind of guessed already from my sweater and my hat, this is one of the only Christmas sweaters I have. The thing was like an ugly Christmas sweater that I got last year, or maybe was it 2 years ago? But anyway, so we're gonna be talking about Christmas today. It's gonna be a little shorter of an episode because we actually do have a viewer submitted question, but I would like to save that for either the week after next or the first week back after the new year. And I wanted to just do a short little episode talking about Christmas, since Christmas is less than a week away. So one of the things I wanted to really just talk about, and this is mostly going to be anecdotal, so this is mostly just going to be me talking about my perspective on the question, does Christmas really matter? I also, not just that, but I also want to kind of maybe dive in have a little bit of fun diving into some myths about Christmas, diving into some ideas and concepts that surround Christmas. I kind of want to dive in those a little bit here. And we're going to start off by doing that, just kind of having fun talking about certain things about Christmas that maybe you've never heard about before. And then I want to dive into the question of, does Christmas matter? Maybe talking about it more from just a personal perspective, a cultural perspective. So starting off, I want to talk about just interesting characters. And you've probably heard about maybe some of these characters before. Krampus in Central Europe. He's probably the most famous anti-Santa character that you've heard of. He's sort of like this half goat, like half demon who carries around a bundle of birch, and he swats naughty kids with this bundle of birch, and he gives gifts, or while Santa gives gifts, Krampus is said to stuff the truly wicked into a sack and drag them to the underworld. So I can imagine being a 7-year-old child growing up in Central Europe, terrified that Krampus was going to come get me. How Central European children did not have PTSD is beyond me. Maybe they did. We don't know. The Yule cat. Now, this is one you may not have heard of. This is from Iceland, known as Jólakötturinn. That's hard. It's a giant ferocious cat that stalks the snowy countryside on Christmas Eve. It doesn't, unlike Krampus, it doesn't look for naughty children. It looks for anyone not wearing new clothes. Well, I would certainly be on its list then, because I shop at a Salvation Army. In old Icelandic tradition, everyone had to finish their wool work before Christmas to get new garments. Those who didn't were eaten by the cat. Again, very traumatizing. But what about some more whimsical, maybe helping creatures? Well, there's the Christmas spider. This is folklore from the Ukraine and Germany. This is a legend that tells of a poor widow who couldn't afford to decorate her tree. On Christmas morning, she woke up to find a spider had spun a beautiful web all over it. Well, I mean, a spider web all over my tree. I'm not sure I'd consider it beautiful there in the moment, but maybe it was very decorative. When the sun hit the web, it turned into gold and silver. Okay, now there you have me. This is why many Eastern European trees are decorated with spider ornaments, or tinsel today. If you've ever seen the gold or the silver tinsel, now you know where that tradition comes from. La Befana, this is from Italy. In Italian folklore, an old woman named Befana visits children on the night of January 5th. Not Christmas Eve. Legend says that 3 wise men invited her to join them to see baby Jesus. She declined because she was too busy cleaning, but later regretted it. Now she flies on a broom searching for the child, leaving candy for good kids and coal for bad ones. Okay, I feel like maybe we're having a, what is it called? A crossover episode between Halloween and Christmas. A witch flying around on a broom, leaving candy, okay, it's Halloween, for kids, good kids, and coal for bad kids, Christmas. We just got a whole bunch of them meshed together there. There's the Yule lads. This is from Iceland. Instead of Santa, Iceland has 13 mischievous trolls. They visit one by one on the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. Each has a specific prank specialty that they do. One who steal leftovers. Another one looks for things to steal, like knickknacks. And these are the mischievous Yule lads. So another interesting thing to consider are the mythology or the symbolism behind kind of everyday Christmas symbols that we do, like many things that we consider standard Christmas decor, like mistletoe, for example. In Norse mythology, the god Baldur was killed by an arrow made of mistletoe. His mother Frigga cried tears that became the white berries and vowed that mistletoe would never again be a weapon, but a symbol of love and peace, or a symbol of give me a smooch at Christmas. Candy canes. This is more so legend, but legend says that a choir master in the 1670s in Germany gave sugar sticks to children to keep them quiet during the long Christmas service, and he bent them into a crook to represent the shepherds who visited Jesus. Then, for some of you, you might recognize this tradition. For me, I only learned about this maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Like, this is a new thing to me. But the Christmas pickle, apparently, this is likely a manufactured story, but it's a myth nonetheless that says that during the Civil War in America, a prisoner of war was saved from starvation by being given a pickle on Christmas Eve. So where that tradition originated from, I'm not entirely sure. Some people would say that it originated from Germany. We don't know, but for some people, a Christmas pickle is quite the tradition. What are some misconceptions? Now, I'm not going to get into this one too much. In fact, we actually did cover this one. Oh, man, goodness. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, actually, when we had our For the Love of It podcast. Jesus wasn't born on December 25th, or I guess a better way to say that is he probably wasn't. The Bible never actually mentions a specific date. There are a lot of hypotheses based on certain things like, Zechariah and the priestly order that he was a part of, and, Elizabeth being 6 months pregnant with John at the time of Mary's conception. So there's a lot of guesses on when this could have been. I think one of the good evidences, I guess I could say a good argument, but not a foolproof argument, is people will say that in the winter season in Israel, while not necessarily very cold, it does get cooler in the winter season, but it does rain a lot. And there have been some sources that say that in the ancient Middle East, they would bring their flocks in by the time of around September, beginning of September. They would bring their flocks in for the rainy winter season. And so I've heard that argument before, that at the time of Jesus' birth, there were sheep who were tending their flocks at night, and that only would have been something that what they would have done in the summer seasons or the spring, not in the fall or not in the winter seasons, which is when they would bring their flocks in, mostly because of the cool temperatures and the rain, not necessarily because it's freezing. A lot of people will misquote that and say, well, the shepherds wouldn't be out during the winter because it's freezing. Well, it wasn't really freezing there, but it was colder and it did rain a lot more frequently. It does rain a lot more frequently during that season. So that's kind of where we'll go with that one. December 25th coincides with winter solstice festivals, like the Roman festival Saturnalia, as well as the Yule in Germanic tribes. This was, all the way back in the 1st century, and it was thought that December 25th was kind of a way to redeem perhaps those holidays, redeem those festivals perhaps. Another interesting misconception that I didn't know about until quite a few, I mean 2 years ago, that Jingle Bells isn't really a Christmas song. So it was originally written by James Lord Pierpont in the 1950s for a Thanksgiving Sunday school program. And it was so popular that it was associated with Christmas, where it was so popular that it was sung at Christmas, and the association stuck. Think about sleigh bells, sleigh riding, jingle bells. Well, there were sleigh rides, and there were sleigh horse-drawn carriage races at Thanksgiving. Nothing in the song mentions Christmas because, well, more than likely the song isn't about Christmas, which is very interesting. So those are some just kind of fun, interesting little tidbits. And I'd love to hear, what are some fun, interesting facts that you know about Christmas? Perhaps you have some traditions that I've never heard of. I didn't really grow up hearing about the elf on the shelf. Maybe you know where that one came from. I've never even heard of that one before. But I had just a couple of years ago. Is that something maybe that your family has done and you continue to do? What are some traditions that you loved growing up? What are some traditions that you would perhaps love to start someday with your family? I think that every family has their own traditions. I think that is one of the nice things about Christmas. Now, one of the difficult things about that is sometimes it can be hard to establish a tradition because there's so many different kinds of traditions that could be. Sometimes it's hard to pick ones that should be. So, what about Christmas itself? I'm kind of going to gear more towards just kind of anecdote here, just for a little bit. Talking about the psychology of Christmas, or just talking about this time of year especially. I think one of the most obvious reasons, just very broadly, of why this time of year makes sense to have the most talked about holiday of the entire year is because various Western cultures celebrated the winter solstice. We mentioned two of them, the Roman Saturnalia and the Germanic Yule. These weren't just, they were, I guess you could say, pagan celebrations and pagan holidays, of course, but they were essential to establishing better morale during the darkest and coldest months of the year. You know, we're in December, and the solstice is in December, and it's the shortest day of the year, and it's dark, and it's cold. So when the days are shortest, humans have an innate psychological need for community, for feasting, for light, for joy. Because without that, our minds and our moods and our emotions begin to reflect the dark, damp, cold days of December. We call this seasonal affective disorder. I don't think it's really a disorder. I just think it's called being a person. It's when you feel just this weird, overwhelming depression, and you don't know why. Well, more than likely, it's because you've entered into the darkest season of the year, and you just came out of summer where everything was much, perhaps brighter, much cheerier, and where the days were longer and there was a lot more sun. But then you come into the winter where things slow down, it gets cold, it snows all the time, there's always clouds, or at least where I live. It's always gray, there's always nighttime. It can feel very separating, very isolating. And so I think that one of the reasons why Christmas was strategically placed at December 25th was to inherit existing traditions of gift-giving, greenery, and heavy feasting. Because this is a time of year when we should be rejoicing as much as we can to counteract that seasonal affective disorder. Now, in the 1800s, the Victorian period actually did a lot to rewrite the depiction of Christmas in the Western world, especially in the United States. See, Christmas was actually in decline by the 1800s, and it was often celebrated as a rowdy, drunken public festival. But during the Victorian age, there was a reinvention of Christmas. Charles Dickens, in his 1843 novella, A Christmas Carol, helped redefine Christmas as a time of charity, of mercy, of forbearance and benevolence. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, in 1848, a drawing of the royal family standing around a decorated fir tree was published. And within years, the Christmas tree became a mandatory normal symbol for refined middle-class homes. The Industrial Revolution likewise continued to revolutionize the way that we celebrated Christmas, most poignantly by introducing consumerism. And then, of course, we have the look and feel of Christmas being found in films like Miracle on 34th Street, which really helped define the cozy, snow, New England home kind of aesthetic of Christmas. Also, we have brands like Coca-Cola who are single-handedly responsible for the modern image of Santa Claus as a jolly, red-suited grandfather figure, making him instantly recognizable. So these are kind of the reasons why Christmas is the way that it is. And they're not the only reasons. There's a lot of reasons for why Christmas is the way that it is. But does Christmas matter? And so here's where I'm going to kind of dive into just some personal anecdotes. I think for some people, I'd say actually a lot of people, Christmas does matter because for them, Christmas isn't just a holiday during a time of year that is very dark and depressing, but it's also incredibly nostalgic. They have memories of baking cookies, or they have memories of going Christmas caroling, or they have memories of decorating the house with Christmas lights, or they have memories of going to Christmas concerts, setting up a Christmas tree, or taking the family van or the family, station wagon over to a Christmas tree nursery farm and cutting down a tree and throwing it on the top of their car and driving it home and setting up all the decorations and the Christmas lights. And a lot of people have memories of Christmas songs, certain songs that mean a lot to them because they listen to that song every single year, every single time on a specific day. Or maybe it's a movie. Maybe it's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or How a Grinch Stole Christmas. Maybe it's a movie that you remember watching when you were a kid. The point is that Christmas is very nostalgic to a lot of people. There's a lot of memories that feel comfortable, that feel warm, and that feel loving, and that feel familiar. It feels like drinking a nice warm cup of hot cocoa nestled around a fire listening to White Christmas by Bing Crosby. But for some people it's not. For some people, Christmas reminds them of when their parents split up. It reminds them of the anxiety and the stress of gift shopping for everybody and everyone, all 700 family members and friends. Or it's the stress of the financial strain of already struggling and feeling like you're trying to get ahead, but then suddenly you're coughing up $800+ for dozens and dozens of Christmas presents. Or maybe it's just all kind of a facade to you anyway. Maybe Christmas was never a thing that you really got caught up in because the dark melancholy of the Christmas season is unavoidable, regardless of whether or not you're painting over it with glossy red paint and some Mariah Carey. Or maybe Christmas reminded you of how alone you felt. Maybe you felt so alone growing up, so alone at many different parts of your life. And Christmas always reminded you of it. Because you would see these families that were happy, that were joyous, that were celebrating together. And yeah, maybe you did celebrate with your family. Maybe there was family Christmases, but they felt so vacant. Because you knew that the happiness was manufactured. You knew that the happiness was fake. You knew that really these people hated each other. You knew that really they don't really love each other like that. That they would be at each other's necks if given the moment and the choice. That really, after Christmas, everyone's just going to hate each other again. And so to you, the jovial celebrations are a lie. It's not real. You see, there is also a large group of people in our culture, or whatever culture you may be in, who don't have those jolly, warm, comfortable associations with Christmas. Does that make them a miserably depressed person to be around? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but it does mean that Christmas is very subjective. Christmas is very subjective. You see, on top of nostalgic charm or nostalgic pain, there's also consumerism, which has, over the years, consumed Christmas quite completely. In the sense that Christmas is almost all about consumerism. The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, is literally a day all about rushing out to purchase things as fast and cheaply as you can. It's all about buying this, buying that, being excited and happy about presents. Now, don't get me wrong. I still remember to this day when I was a kid I think it was 1996 or 1998. I can't remember. I remember waking up, going to the Christmas tree and grabbing my presents and opening them up and getting a Game Boy Pocket. And I was just over the hill. Oh, just over the wall. Oh, just, I forgot the phrase. Just thrilled, overjoyed. There it is. Overjoyed about this. It was the best present I ever got as a kid. Second only to my Clavinova piano when I was in 7th grade, but it was awesome. And being a kid, oh my goodness, presents are everything, right? I mean, they're not everything, but you love Christmas because you love presents. And then you get older and kind of realize, like, wow, they cost a lot of money. And suddenly you're the one buying the presents. And then you realize how much things really cost. Consumerism becomes a brand or a feature about what Christmas is, and that's hard. I think I would say that it taints and distorts in a lot of ways Christmas. Also, I mean, we know that it's very high chance that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. So the specific day, really serves no actual significance. Like the day itself. There's nothing overwhelmingly significant about December 25th. If you wanted to have a celebration with your family, it could literally be on any other day. There's nothing that significant about December 25th, specifically. Well, for a lot of people, Christmas, that time of Christmas, doesn't matter that much. And it's not because they don't like celebrating holidays, or it's not because they don't like celebrating that time of year. It's because they feel worn down by the consumerism. Right? They look at people constantly buying with these big old smiles on their face, purchasing every single thing in the book, big old smiles on their face, and they go home and drink a latte of eggnog and watch some Hallmark Christmas movie. Meanwhile, most, a large number of people, and I think the number of people that are disenfranchised with the consumerism of Christmas is growing because of the economic challenges of the current day that we live in. But I think people look at that and they say, oh, that's just so plastic and so fake. I don't care about shopping. I don't care about falling into this consumerist trap of commercialization and being drawn in by all these cool new gadgets and all these new things. A lot of people just don't care. They don't care about presents. To them, presents are more stress than they are an actual gift. And then there's some people who just don't really care to be caught up in cultural obsessions. I mean, they see an entire culture and society just obsessed with Christmas. They're just like, but why? I'd rather just not be obsessed with Christmas. Let me be obsessed with something else. Let me be obsessed with Halloween or Thanksgiving. And maybe they're just the kind of people that go against the grain rather than with it. I think there's a lot of reasons why people just don't think Christmas is that important. But I think the most important thing is, if it is to you, if Christmas is important to you, don't let anyone take that away from you. You see, there are certain kinds of people who think about the world, or I should say, the way in which they think about the world is very, very existential. A very broad term to classify these people would be melancholic. These are melancholics, or melancholy people. These are people who you would very quickly assume these people are sad or depressed. You would very quickly assume that. But melancholy is a different emotion than pure sadness or depression. See, sadness is more, I would argue that sadness is a broad, very generic term. Depression is a specific thing. Melancholy is a specific thing. Melancholics aren't necessarily sad or depressed. I mean, I would say that melancholy is a type of sadness, and sadness kind of being more the broad generic term. But melancholy it means that someone has a habit of looking at the empty space behind the fabric the world's given you. What I mean by that is this. Imagine you're in a museum or somewhere, and you see this massive tapestry on the wall. A tapestry, if you don't know what a tapestry is, it's a fabric that's sewn. Think of like a throw blanket. It's a fabric that's sewn, but it's art, not just a blanket. It's actual art, right? There's whole images, there's whole designs that people like sew into this fabric, and it's a tapestry. But imagine there's this huge tapestry on the wall, and it's just this amazing landscape painting. I mean, obviously painting with thread, but it's this large, incredible portrait or painting, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's like, wow, look at this. This is so great. This is so awesome. And it's like, wow, I'm so happy. Like, you're looking at it, makes you happy and it makes you excited. But then when you go around and you look at the back of the tapestry, you'll see a mess. Just a huge mess. And see, melancholics look at the mess because they want to know, they either want to understand the happiness, or they want to know if it's okay to be happy. I think this is a topic that we'll get into perhaps at a later time. I'm actually working on a YouTube video about melancholy. But this is one of the things I think that people misunderstand about melancholics. Number one, they misunderstand that they're not necessarily depressed. They're not grieving, they're not necessarily in depression. And number two, melancholics want to express happiness, but they want to express it when they feel safe to do so. And for them, when they see a holiday like Christmas, when everyone's joyous and happy and singing and of good cheer, for them, they don't feel safe to express happiness, because they know that behind it is just more emptiness. It's just a facade. The winter night is still cold. The days are still short. The clouds are still overcast. The family is still bitter and angry at each other. The gifts still cost money. There's still tension. And for them, Christmas is just a mask. You see, it's not that they hate the idea of Christmas. It's not that they hate celebration. It's not that they hate festivities. They don't hate cookies. They don't hate eggnog. They don't hate Christmas caroling. They don't hate Christmas lights. It's that behind those things, they see emptiness. They see something that's not really worth their time because it only lasts for a while and gives way to just more heartache. For them, they would rather express happiness when they feel safe to do so. So I think what I would end by saying, and I hope that you've maybe taken something away from this, because this has sounded a bit of a forlorn conversation, but I think one of the things that I would hope, at least I would take away from this is, if you meet someone who is obsessed with Christmas, who loves Christmas, encourage them. Rejoice with them, right? Give them a hug. Bake cookies with them. Don't disparage their joy if you see Christmas differently. Likewise, if you are ravenously obsessed with Christmas and you have to watch every Christmas movie, sing every Christmas song, bake every cookie, hang up every light, the whole 9 yards, that's awesome. But recognize and understand that the loved ones in your life who don't really have a Christmas spirit aren't necessarily depressed. They're not depressed. They don't hate the world. They don't necessarily hate Christmas fundamentally. but they just see the world differently. And if you know someone like that, just be patient with them, love them, and focus less on forcing them to celebrate Christmas and focus more on giving them a place where they could feel happy, or where they feel safe enough to express their happiness. So that's what I would say, and that's what I would leave you with. It's been, again, a short episode, but I just want to wish all of you a super merry, awesome, fantastic Christmas. And I hope that you have an incredible weekend, and I hope that you have an incredible week next week. I hope that whatever your Christmas traditions are, whatever is the thing that you love doing the most, I hope that you enjoy doing it. And when you're with family, I hope and pray that you hold them dear, that you love them and give them a big hug and let them know how much they're loved. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited to seeing you when we come back for our next episode with a viewer-submitted question. Thank you. Love you all. Have a good night.